All right. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the VANNGuard Show, the Truth Podcast, and we are on the right side of politics. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate the love. I have a special guest on a special night and a special time. You just special over there, Anthony.
Hey, I appreciate it.
In the good way, of course. All right. So listen, we have a congressional candidate for 7th District. We have Anthony Driver. All right, now let's give some love for Anthony. Go ahead, Anthony. Say hi to everybody. Don't be shy.
What's up? How's it going, everybody? I'm Anthony Driver, candidate for Congress in the 7th District. That's everywhere from the South Side to downtown to River North, Streeterville, Proviso, Oak Park, and all of the West Side.
That's what's going on. Listen, before we get into really just having a good conversation with Anthony, I know you all are tuning in. I must give a shout out to my sponsor, Sarah Berry, for water reclamation. Sarah has studied environmental law in law school. She's been advocating for environmental justice for over a decade. She has her master's in environmental politics, and she is running for office. She wants clean air, clean water, our basements and our streets to be dry, and she wants our voices to be heard at MWRD. Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate your sponsorship for the VANNGuard Show, and I will continue to promote you, and I'll see you on March 4th. All right, now let's go ahead and let's pivot. Let's get into some questions, all right? So if you've been watching the VANNGuard Show, maybe you tuned in here and there, I could be a little animated, as you all know, but that's because I love my guests. And I love what I do. This is therapeutic for me. So while we are talking, there might be some opportunities to unpack your answers. Look at me. We having a conversation. They can see you. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be like, why are you not paying attention to the host? So you already got me pivoting. I didn't even get into the questions already. So listen. There are going to be some opportunities for me to unpack your answers. Okay. So just go with the flow with that. I will come off, script when it comes to these questions, and I'm just going to have a conversation with you. Okay. The whole point is I want people to get to know you. I want to get people to know Anthony. Yep. Who is Anthony? Because Anthony just kind of popped up out of nowhere, right? That's what everybody's saying. So I want them to know that you've been around for a while and what you've been doing. Sure. So thank you again for reaching out and coming on the show. I appreciate you. I'm already extending another welcome back. So
and I'll be
just
back.
Come on back. You are welcome. The door is open for you in the VANNGuard Show. What was it about the VANNGuard Show that you said, you know what, I want to come on this show and tell people who I am?
I think it's just a chance to not only get acclimated and introduced to a familiar but new audience, but also the authenticity. It's a chance to have real conversations and real talk, and it doesn't have to be in sort of that form debate, politically correct environment where we can just have an actual, honest, and real conversation.
And that is great because that is what we're going to do, because that's what I see in you. I see that you're a very genuine and authentic person, and I want people to know that side of you.
For sure.
So I need you first to just kind of start off about who is Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony is a labor leader. Anthony is a person whose politics is born out of lived experience, not like a fly-by-night progressive, but somebody who grew up in a rough environment, came from a union household, and I got tired of seeing my friends and family members get killed by gun violence, and it influenced me in a way that I've always said, I don't want revenge on the people who killed my friends. I want revenge on the system that created the environment for them to be killed. And that's been my life's mission ever since then. And I want to make sure that the young AJ has a chance to thrive in the way that I am thriving, but doesn't have to go through all of the trauma and things that I experienced.
You said young AJ.
Yeah.
Who is that?
That's young AJ. That is the younger version of me. That is the kid.
Okay.
That's the kid who wanted to be a pilot. Sorry, y'all. I go by AJ.
Okay.
That's my nickname, Anthony Jr.
Okay.
But when I think about young AJ, he was a kid who just wanted to be a pilot. Had the world at his feet, super smart, had a scholarship to study aviation. And then as I got older, I started losing people to violence. And that's when I realized that my time, my talent, my energy, my effort was not going to be able to be used just for me. I had to give it back to my community. And I've been doing it ever since then.
That's amazing. See, I would not known that. I
Yeah,
would have not known that. I know that gun violence had shaped you in some sort of
for
capacity,
sure.
but I didn't know the impacts of it. So
Yeah,
how is it that you're going to be able to shape public service moving forward as a result of that gun
because
violence?
my leadership comes from lived experience. It doesn't
Mhm.
come from, I don't even really like politics.
Interesting.
It's not my thing.
It's not your thing, huh?
It's a necessity that people like me exist in spaces like this. I've lost 22 friends and family members to gun violence, and I understand that when you lose somebody, it's not just a person dying. The person who killed my friend, after he killed him, he was killed a year later. And so just understanding how it impacts an entire family, entire community, how it shakes a community, and how people grow up in like a perpetual cycle of violence, is something that I know intimately. And so I'm not driven. There's no amount of political donations. There's no amount of deal cutting. There's no amount of folding that I would do because it's just something that impacts me. It's the same way when you hear me talk about healthcare, specifically Black maternal healthcare. I'll never sell out to a health insurance industry because my mom was unable to have children. She had three miscarriages because she didn't have access to adequate maternal health care. So after having three miscarriages and being told you're going to die if you try again, and her life's dream was just to be a mom, and she should not have had to risk her life in order to bring life into this world.
Absolutely. Can you talk more about that? What kind of policies would you kind of
Yeah,
bring forth and take to Congress to
for
protect
sure.
Black women in childbirth?
Yeah, and so it starts with calling out the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Both as a Democrat, I reserve the right to criticize the party, and a lot of these for all plans. Also, shout out to Pramila Jayapal. Y'all are hearing it here first. I will be announcing an endorsement from the chief sponsor of the Medicare for All PAC, Medicare for All bill tomorrow. So shout out to Medicare for All. It's something that I'm very passionate about, but I'm very clear that any for all plan that doesn't include Black people is an issue. And I'm not saying that's the case with Medicare for all. I'm just saying we got to be specific. So when you have Black women who die at 3 times the rate during childbirth, and you don't specifically address that issue, and you just have a for all plan, and you keep saying over and over, a rising tide lifts all boats. Well, my community's been drowning. So we need a little bit extra help. We need a little bit extra sauce, a little bit extra seasoning on us, right? Because this is something that is impacting us in a different way. So it's ensuring that we got culturally competent doctors. What does it look like to have universities that have to have their curriculum be culturally competent when they're training these doctors? I'm a darker skinned Black man, and I vividly remember a nurse over and over couldn't find my vein to the point where I passed out. um,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, but like that's a thing. Black maternal health is a thing. Even during a once in a lifetime pandemic, using a pulse oximeter that is different on melanated skin. Those are all things that have to be legislated and funded to ensure that our people are getting what they need.
You know, so while I have been following you, right, and I've been doing my research in
Hmm.
anticipation of this interview, that's a part that I didn't know about. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And I think that is so critical that we begin to continue to dive a little bit deeper into who Anthony is. And this part is, I think, and I always say this, and I think this should be my ongoing line because I believe in
hmm,
this. There's strength and vulnerability,
for
right?
sure,
And like the
for
fact
sure.
that you are so vulnerable right now, right from the door, sharing that has really,
Yeah.
really kind of showed me another perspective of you.
Yeah, I don't hide from who I am. I show up authentically everywhere I go. Listen, you catch me listening to Kirk Franklin 1 minute and Gucci Mane the next. I don't shrink, I don't hide. I've been through that phase of my life where I've cut my locks off and tried to be clean cut and tried to fit into a box. And I always said I'm going to be so good at my job that I'll be able to show up authentically with tattoos, with locks, with a beard. I'll be to dress how I want to dress, and you're still going to hire me because I'm that good at my job. And I don't say that to brag. I say that because I had to work really hard to get to that point, and now I'm at a point where every space I go into, I show up as my authentic self, no matter what. I don't hide any parts of myself. You can ask me any personal question, political question, I'm gonna answer honestly.
So you mentioned that you don't even like politics,
Nah,
right? Like that's not your thing. And so before politics, you spent years of organizing, which we're going to talk about this
yeah.
too. You were sitting at people kitchen, tables with families,
Hmm.
organizing. What are some of the stories and or conversations that still live with you today that have influenced you to move
Yeah.
forward in this public sector?
I will tell you, uh, right before the pandemic, I had got a few wins under my belt. I was working for SEIU Healthcare, and I was feeling good about myself. Like, I'm on my way. I'm doing it right. And we represent nursing home workers, and the same members who were out knocking doors with me, organizing their shops, attempting to get their colleagues to vote and support this candidate. At the time, we were shout out to Senator Lakeisha Collins and Kim Foxx. At the time, that's who we were supporting. But overnight, they started dying. Like, imagine the people who you're working with, your coworkers who work in a nursing home, your members, and overnight they start to die because they work in a nursing home industry where they don't have the same healthcare they're providing to people. And this pandemic happens, and they're all getting this virus and taking it home to their families. And that was a moment for me where I had to get out of my like sort of ideological box and realize that there's people's lives depending on me. Like, and that's why I say all the time, I appreciate every progressive that has the vision to cast into the world where they want to shoot for the moon. But it's different when you represent people who are dependent on you, who literally are counting on you to make sure that they get wage increases, who are counting on you to make sure that they get PPE during a global pandemic, right? And so that's shaped me in a different way. My politics is born out of lived experience. It's not born out of this is a celebrity type of thing, or I want to be in the limelight. I've been organizing and winning on behalf of working people for years, and I've never jumped in front of a camera because that's not who I am. We put our members first at SEIU. I put people first, and I'm a coalition builder.
What? Thank you for that. What role do you play in SEIU? Are you the executive director?
I'm the executive director of our state council. SEIU state council is the largest labor council in the Midwest. We represent 165,000 workers statewide in every industry, from doctors, nurses, childcare providers, crossing guards, the window washers downtown Chicago, security guards, like you name it, special education teachers to CPS. We represent a very wide swath of workers, 165,000 in the state.
Wow, that's amazing. You keep mentioning this lived experience and
Mhm.
that your family, come from, their
For
laborers.
sure.
Who was that? And then tell me more about that lived
Who
experience.
was my family?
No, who were the ones in your family that were laborers? You said that you had
Oh,
people that
oh,
were.
yeah. I'm a labor. My family. My grandfather is a retired plumber. Um, shout out to granddad. James Driver will be 84 in like 2 weeks.
Happy birthday, granddad.
He's a retired city of Chicago plumber. My father is still a carpenter steward. He's been a carpenter for over 25 years. Shout out to Local 13, and thank you for the endorsement to the carpenters. My mom works for SEIU. She's former IBW. And my grandmother's a retired bus attendant. She was SEIU. So my whole family is labor,
Wow.
like all of them.
Just born right into it.
Man, that's
That's
what. But
that,
I'm
that's
the
that
only man
legacy.
in my family to get a chance to go to college and graduate. Not just graduate, but to go. Period.
Oh, so are
And
you first generation, would you say?
for sure,
Wow.
for sure, first and only. First,
Oh.
first and only, and it was because I came from a labor family, and that afforded us some upward mobility to the point where my whole village had to band together to see me through Howard.
HU?
You know,
There we go. Wow, that's amazing. Side note, I love HU.
she said you look nervous, but you cute. I'm not nervous.
um, no, he's not nervous, and he is cute, child. By the way, you are looking a little dapper with the little ponytail, looking a little
Appreciate it.
GQ. Okay, now I got him blushing. So let me go ahead and push it back a little bit. So you talked about coalition building over consultants, right? And
Mhm.
you said it's important to build these coalitions. Can you tell me what that looks like behind the scene? What does
Building a
organize?
coalition.
Yeah, and what does that look like?
Yeah.
Organizing. You mentioned that before. What
Yeah,
does
I
that
mean,
look like?
so if we talk about like a coalition in the sense of this campaign, over 45 endorsements, like labor, this isn't like I don't just fill out questionnaires and like, oh, you should support me. These are long-standing relationships. These are people who I've been in the trenches with, fighting on behalf of working people. That's what this looks like. The people who are endorsing me is because I've stood with them on picket lines. I've stood with them to pass, wage increases, paid leave, workers' rights amendment. We've been on the front line together. So naturally, when I decided to run for office, they all stood with me because I've been standing with them, for years now. And that's what it looks like to be a coalition builder. There's so many fights that we've won together that I haven't even like scratched the surface of taking credit for, and I won't do that because it's not about me. It's about us. It's about we. It's about the greater good, and it's not about like the single candidate. That's one of the problems with our politics now. We like to deify people, like Donald Trump is a god, right? No, he's a person. He's a human who can be beat. And we got to get out of this like celebrity culture of like, oh, you're the congressman, you're the alderman, you're somebody. No, I'm just an everyday person, just like you. And if we can get to that point where we all are looking at each other eye to eye at the same seated at the same table, we can really get to a better spot.
I like that, seated at the same table, because there's one thing for us to be seated at the same table and still not have equity at that table,
Yep.
right? And so, what does that look like when we're all seated at the same table and there's equity, right?
Yeah,
And it's big, and it's also equality and equity is also very
for
different.
sure.
And so, people
For
kind of
sure.
get those kind of mixed up and
Hmm.
intertwined, and it's total opposite. So,
Yeah.
with you on this campaign trail to Congress, how does that look like? And I'm going to wrap this back to coalition and
Yeah.
collaboration. What does that look like with you carrying the voices back to Congress,
Yeah.
right? What can you tell me that Washington, D.C. is not hearing, whether they don't want to hear it or just don't know,
Yeah. They are.
that you, if elected, would carry to
They
Congress?
are busy talking to us and not with us, talking at us and not with us. They're busy trying to pretend that they like our leaders have all of the answers. And I don't come from that type of culture. I come from an environment where I think the people have the answer. I've served as president of the Civilian Oversight Board for 4 years, and never have I tried to tell another community what's best for them. Instead, I come from the perspective of how can I serve you? How can I help you? What are your needs? Right? How can we work together to accomplish this? And that's what that looks like. It looks like asking questions. It looks like being curious. It looks like fighting for the world that you want to see, and knowing that even if you come short, right, you live to fight another day, right? You take the wins until you plateau, and you keep fighting forward.
That's good. Let's unpack that. Tell me what that looks like for the people out there that are not familiar with politics.
Yep.
They're not familiar with unions,
Yeah.
necessarily the insides and outs of it. So let's talk to the everyday voter that says, I don't
Mhm.
know anything about Anthony. This sounds good, but I'm not, you're kind of talking over my head, right?
Yeah.
So let's bring it down and
Yeah.
let's tell me what it looks like
I'll give you an example, right?
from the average person.
Well, like making politics plain for people.
Hmm.
I was sitting in the chair with my barber recently. And he like, man, and I respect you. You running for Congress, like you're doing your thing, bro. I see you, but I don't really do that political stuff. And he said that. I'm like, the barber chair is where I relax too, because I'm on the go all the time. So I'm like, you know what? I don't really want to get into political debate. I'm gonna just chill out and like take a nap in his seat while he cuts my hair, while he lines me up. And then towards the end, he's like, man, they keep going up on these license fees for my shop and for my my barber license. I'm tired of having to renew this. And I'm like, man, bro, it's cool. You don't do politics. And he like, what you mean?
Like
I
that.
just kept saying it like, you don't do politics. And literally, by the end of it, I explained to him that like it is elected officials who set these rates. They're the people who represent you. If you are not at the table, you're on the menu. Every single aspect of your life is controlled by a person who is there to represent you. Your taxes, your fees, right? The amount, like how clean your water is. That's somebody who's there to represent you. And so we got to like bring politics into plain language in everyday households.
And you're driving my point home. No,
Yeah.
no tenant point. But like in terms of, because the key word is bring. We gotta bring
Hmm.
people along.
You got to go get them.
How do you? So that's what I'm gonna ask you, right? How do you
Hmm.
go get them? How do you bring them along? And knowing that not everybody can make it with you, right?
Yep.
So I'm sure that's a difficult conversation that we'll kind of
Hmm.
talk about a little bit later. But let's talk about the people that you can bring along. How do you bring them? How do you bring these people along to DC when you get there? How is that you're going to represent their voices? The barber, the hairstylist,
Yeah.
the single mom. The How are
We
you
going
going to do
together.
that? Tell me
we
how. How
we
do you
we we are
unpack
going
that?
together. That looks like a person like myself who doesn't believe March 17th is the most important day, but March 18th. That I still knock on your door the day after the election. Instead of asking for your vote, I'm asking how can I serve you.
There you go.
That's what that looks like.
That's what I needed you to say.
All
See, this is why I'm a fish,
right.
because I need you to come out with that. Because here's the deal. And now I'm going to put on the trustee hat, because you all know that I'm also the trustee for the village of Westchester. What's up, Westchester? Westchester be watching my show. I love it too. And if you are elected, Westchester is a part of the 7th
For
district.
sure.
And for many years, Westchester, you know, has not been, and I'm just going to be very transparent because I am,
Yep.
um, have not been necessarily included in congressional plans,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
We've kind of been in a bubble.
Yep.
And some of it was our own doing, and some of it was, we just couldn't get that coalition.
Yep.
We couldn't
Yep.
get that partnership.
Yep.
Westchester votes.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm going to represent my constituents. If you are elected, what can you do for the village of Westchester? I'm sure you
Yeah.
studied Westchester. You probably
Mm-hmm.
found out some things that,
Mm-hmm.
are kind of our
Mm-hmm.
pain points.
Yep.
Talk to us
Yep.
about that.
Yeah, I think the first step is what I said earlier, right? Is not attempting to have all the answers, but asking not only how can I serve, but relying on local elected leaders to ask what do you need? What is in this moment? What do you need from Congress? What do you need as far as capital planning, right? Westchester also has lead pipes like a lot of broader Cook County, and that's
Mhm.
something that I have a plan for is to remove those and remediate those, and it be paid for by the federal government. And
Let me tell you something. Hold on. I'm going to cut you off, but let me just tell you something real quick. If you could figure out a way for the feds to pay for our lead pipes in
yeah,
Westchester,
hmm
Westchester will always vote for you.
yeah, no, we gotta
Because
do that.
that is such a huge thing. And the issue with Westchester is our average median income is above,
Hmm.
and so we don't meet a lot of the grant
Yeah.
qualifications. And then we have these loans, but then the interest rates are just
Yeah,
ridiculous. And
you
so
shouldn't have to pay a dime. You didn't put the pipes there.
that's what we be saying.
Agreed.
So, all right.
And we
So,
need to. It needs to be all encompassing. The federal government needs to pay for it, and then we need to work with the state legislature and local elected officials to make sure we're hiring people from impacted communities because that is gun violence prevention, right? It's environmental justice, it's worker justice, making sure that the people who are removing those are getting to apprenticeship programs in these unions and that they're being hired from the community. Those are going to be the next generation of homeowners.
that's absolutely true. You say that you're a progressive leader.
Yes.
Okay. What does that leadership look like?
That looks like forward thinking.
What is that?
That looks like fighting on behalf of the marginalized, the left out, the downtrodden, the forgotten about, the angry. That looks like not skipping doors when you go out to you know talk to your neighbors, to campus. You don't just knock on the doors that vote. You knock on the ones that don't too. That's what that looks like. That looks like fighting for justice in all shapes and forms.
Have you been out to the village of Westchester yet?
We have knocked Westchester too. We're still
Okay.
working our way through.
I'm gonna need you to work your way through.
I got you. I got you.
Only because I think that that's what you're saying is key, right?
Hmm.
And that not only do certain communities need to know about it, but I think all communities need to understand that and
Hmm.
see your face and see that you're present, right?
So
Um,
we door knocking this weekend.
yeah, you all are. I'll be at
Uh,
the crib.
oh, you ain't gonna door knock with me.
I'm gonna be like this. I'm gonna look down. I'm gonna tell my son, "Oh, that's Anthony. I did tell him to come out. Oh, snap, he did." You're running in a very crowded congressional race. What makes your campaign different?
Look at our results. Look at like you got people who have support from one part of the district, or you got people who, you know, have are what I would call establishment politicians, and you have me who has not only a track record but is a fresh voice who's not entrenched. I don't have any machine politics behind me. I don't have any ethical baggage. I'm not from a political dynasty. So my life fighting on behalf of people, and that's the major difference. And you look at the coalition that we've been able to build. There is no other campaign in this district that has that. We had 110 canvassers out Saturday. We'll do 150 this next Saturday. We had dozens of people that come out and phone bank and door knock every single weekend. There is no other campaign that has that sort of energy. I used to say before the new year that we had over 250 people help us get on the ballot. Right? We probably are way over 450 volunteers at this point.
Okay, look, that's amazing.
Thank you.
And do you think that has something to do with like just the fact that you are a part of SEIU
Oh
and
no,
the
I mean that's a part
unions?
of it. Shout out to SEIU. But no, I tap into my HBCU network, my Howard network,
Ain't
my
you?
community. You know,
Okay. You
my
are
my
programmed.
commission, um, my commission network,
Hmm.
and young people like I've been in this work for a long time. People who I put the time in with are coming out to support me. That's what that's a function of. And of course, it's not just SEIU. Like I mentioned, it's the carpenters, it's the electricians, it's Unite Here, it's the laborers. There, we all on board. It's the whole squad. It's my family. My dad go out with me my mom and dad go out every Saturday.
Were you born and raised in Chicago?
Born and raised.
What
Born
part?
and raised. My family's from the Austin neighborhood. My grandmother moved south to back of the yards in the Inglewood community because she took a babysitting job. So I'm born and raised in Inglewood, back of the yards.
Okay. All right, South Side.
Yeah, my whole life I spent 8 years in DC, 7.5 years in DC. course, 4.5 of that was at Howard, and then I
Mhm.
was a federal lobbyist for a little while, and I stayed in DC for like 2.5 years after college, 3 years, and then I moved back to Chicago, back to the neighborhood I was born and raised in.
Oh wow, full circle.
Oh yeah,
I love that.
I mean, I went to Howard to come back. The goal wasn't to get on and leave. The goal was to get on and put somebody else on.
I like that. I like that. So tell me about, and then I want to talk about the HBCU. Then we're going to go right back to 7th District, but you talk about that a lot, and I think that's important. Would you say that going to a HBCU kind of shaped
It's the
who?
best decision I ever made in my life.
I love it. Say it again.
Best decision I ever made in my
There you
life.
go. There
I
you go.
went to Howard, a brilliant and traumatized kid. Like, I
Mm,
mean, I'm talking all the potential in the world. In high school, I was captain of the debate team, basketball, varsity, all 4 years, chess club, you name it. Um, and literally was traumatized. In fact, I did so many activities in high school because I didn't want to get out of school on time. Like I didn't want if I left with me and my teammates, we knew if we got out of school on time that we were gonna be fighting every single day.
wow.
Like that's how serious it was. And so I joined everything, right? And so I had the world at my feet, but then I started losing people. So I went to Howard angry. And that place loved me into the man that I am today. Like
Mm,
everybody from the cafeteria workers to my professors, I was able to be not only unapologetically black, but exist in a space where I could be myself, where I didn't have to put a mask on and perform for corporate America. I can just exist. And that is the reason why I have the level of confidence that I am today, that I'll run for Congress at 32, that I'll hold mayors accountable, I'll hold governors accountable. Like I'll fight for my people in a different way because of what that institution put into me.
wow. And so HBC, and this is something that I heard from another gentleman that said, we're always going to be looked at as the minority. You might as well go to a
Yeah.
HBCU where you could be the majority
Yep.
and get that and get your soul fed, get your brain fed, get
Yep.
everything that you need, the full armor. So when you come out back out into this
Yep.
world that looks at you as if you're a minority,
Mm-hmm.
you are built up inside as a majority. So you walk different, you carry yourself different. And they also said that the academics are so much more advanced than a lot of the standard
Yeah.
universities.
Yep. I mean, just the people you meet, the history behind those campuses. Like I study in Founders Library where they did all of the research for Brown versus Board of Education, right? Like you walk into that place and you know on day one that like you're in a special place, that like this place was designed specifically for you. That's a different feeling. Like I'm on this campus and this everything around this was designed for me, and they didn't even know I was coming. Like that's a different it's a different feeling, and it's I would encourage everybody to attend an HBCU. And also, it's this misconception that HBCUs are not diverse. I went to school with people from all over the world, all types of different languages, different cultures, and so I did get a great cultural experience. But I was also able to see the different shades of blackness, the different black cultures from around the world, and that was a really amazing experience.
Hmm, I love that. So now let's go back to 7th District. We'll
Yep.
just kind of, we'll teeter back and forth because I think that you're so interesting to me, Anthony. You have so many different layers, and I love kind of like peeling back these layers with you. So this is really interesting. I'm low key fascinated with seeing what's about to come out next.
Was
Speaking of, let's talk about 7th District again.
okay.
All right. Now you've been doing the canvassing. You've got, foot soldiers on the ground. What does that look like in terms of struggle? And let me clarify that. When you're doing your door knocking in 7th District, what are some of the common things and or struggles that you hear people say?
Oh man, it's so much. The biggest is property taxes. That's the thing I hear the most. Like as soon as I ask the question on the doors, what's one thing in particular that's concerning you, that's worrying you, or that's bothering you, you want to see change? They talk about affordability, the cost of living, how wages are stagnant and everything else is getting more expensive. And then that's compiled um, when you think about the property tax increases. People cannot afford to live a healthy life anymore. The cost of childcare has risen 40% in the last 4 or 5 years. Everything is getting more expensive. That's the number one thing that I hear. And then
Hmm.
number two is probably the chaos in DC. How people feel like democracy is not holding up. Our institutions are failing us. The president is a one man show. And third, I hear a lot about people being angry at the federal government withholding funds, sending ICE and CBP agents into Chicago. Those are probably the three things that I hear the most.
So Let's talk about federal government and black women really
Hmm.
quickly. So about 300,000, give or take, black women either
Yeah.
lost their job or they resigned.
Yep.
Um, they took the fork in the road is what it was called, and I know because I work for the feds.
Hmm.
And so for me, it was hurtful that the very people that I would hope to see in the office were no longer there, or
Hmm.
we're doing farewell parties. Um, 33% of the federal government was employed by black women. No, 12%, sorry. And 33% were laid off.
Hmm.
So that's huge.
It is.
It's almost like we were targeted, if you will. Some
Yep.
people would say that. I'm
Hmm.
not saying one way or another.
Hmm.
Um, when you go to DC as a black woman, unapologetically black woman, I want to know how you're going to protect us
Hmm.
and how you're going to uplift our voice.
Yep. It starts with putting you at the forefront. It starts with making sure that your voice is always heard. It starts with um, that coalition that I'm talking about, having strong Black women leaders, which I hope once elected you will join and be a part of that coalition, and I will take direction from Black women. Which is something that I think I've always not only been a proponent of, but that's what made me who I am today. Some of the Black women leaders, like a Erica Bland and Anita Estelle, rest in peace, right? But those are all people who poured into me to the point where I know how to take direction from people. And I think again, I will always go back to my point of if you want to serve somebody, you have to not only know what their issues are, but you have to uplift their voice and take direction from them. Right? You can ask me about gun violence. I'm gonna give you a full spiel. Ask me about anything labor. Right? I got you. I'm gonna knock it out the park. Right? Why don't I view you in the same way? Right? Why don't I view you as an expert on what it means to be a black woman and what it means to go into DC and fight on your behalf? And I should be actively asking you those questions because I'll never know what it's like to be a black woman. I'll never know what it's like to be a woman. Period. And I think so often we get caught in this cycle of erasing one another, right? Instead of just saying, "Look, you are the expert, and I want to follow your lead." Right? I'll still be a leader and take this into the halls of Congress, but where I get my information from, and I think it's important.
I like that. I like
Mhm.
that. Um, what's one policy change that you would immediately improve if you were on your way to DC?
Ooh, one policy
Hmm.
change. I am a huge proponent of capping the cost of childcare, specifically in the state of
I
Illinois.
think you might have watched one of my previous shows. I think you over here.
So I've been fighting and I've been fighting for childcare for all now for 7 8 years. But what you saw during the pandemic is 30 40% of childcare centers in the state of Illinois close. And then once the world opens back up and people are not working from home anymore, the cost has gone up exponentially because so many childcare centers closed. So now you got people working a job just to pay for childcare and paying an extra rent and mortgage in childcare, which is ridiculous. So we gotta cap the cost of childcare. The federal government should be subsidizing that, and it'll also improve the workforce because you have people who don't have to stay home anymore with their kids. They're able to have childcare at an affordable rate that is subsidized, and they can go out and be in the workforce.
What does that subsidy look like? And let me kind of flesh that out.
Hmm.
Typically, when we say subsidy, number one, that's a negative connotation. People be like, "Oh, subsidy," but the
Hmm.
reality is that
For subsidizing, yeah.
when you get a conventional loan versus a Fannie Mae, if you get an FHA
Yeah.
FHA is subsidy. That's a subsidized type loan.
Hmm.
You lower interest rate, lower down payment because you're going to get a government from the feds,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? So I want to first kind of dispel the stereotypes around what affordable housing is, child care subsidy, and
Yeah.
things of that need because it just has such a negative connotation. More
It's,
importantly, I
it's
want to
really
speak
giving you
to
your money back.
it is,
You
right?
pay
You
taxes.
pay
That's yeah.
taxes, right? And so thank you because you're adding right on to my next question. Will there be, if you had it your way and you were able to kind of like revamp this health child care subsidy, would the AMI income, let's say the income
Mhm.
requirement, would that increase? And let me explain. Right now, the subsidy is like if you're in poverty or below
Yeah.
30% or things of that nature, then you can qualify for the subsidy. But the
Mhm.
folks who are in the so-called middle class, and I do air quotes because
Exactly,
I
because
don't
everything is so
really believe
expensive.
like there's
Yeah.
a middle class, and that's just
Yeah.
me. I'm not, that's just
Mhm.
me. That's not Anthony, that's Victoria, that's the
I
Vanguard.
agree too, though.
Okay, good, because I don't want to, but that's just what I believe. And
Mhm.
so the folks who are working as the backbone of America, and I'm talking about the people that are part of the union, the blue
Mhm.
collar, even some of the
Mhm.
white collar, they're working with a college degree and can barely afford childcare
Mhm.
because they make maybe $10 over what the income limit is.
Yeah.
And so
It needs.
how would you change that?
Yeah, it needs to be raised. Period. And also, we have to. The federal government should be encouraging, not encouraging, incentivizing more child care centers opening. A big reason you see so many closed is in Illinois, you have to have the same certifications to be a teacher, but you make so much less as a child care provider than you do being a teacher. So people don't want to be child care providers anymore. They'll go and just teach because you make more money, and many times you have more union protections, right? So it's important that the federal government incentivize this and come in and not only subsidize people who need childcare, but subsidize the childcare centers as well to make sure that they have what they need. That's important.
I think that's
You
key.
gotta have childcare. There's no other way to look at it. It is a necessity that our economy is dependent on.
I totally
Yeah.
agree with you on that one. And the child care, really people tend to kind of glaze over that,
Hmm.
but that's instrumental to the success of our nation.
Yeah. Yep.
What labor issues intersect with community issues like housing, healthcare, and public safety?
Housing, healthcare, and public safety.
Mhm,
What labor issues?
mhm.
I'll take.
Intersect with community issues like housing, healthcare, and public
Yeah,
safety.
all of them.
Tell me more.
Every single one of them. So, like our philosophy, not only at SCIU, but my personal philosophy is that I fight for the dignity of our members on the job site, but also in the communities that they go home to. So, what good is it if I get you a great contract and you get a 6% raise, right? We killed it this year. You got 6% raise, but your cost of living is still increasing. But you live in a violence plagued community. But you can't afford to send your child to a child care center.
Which is typical, right?
Yeah. So
That's
like so
a
like no, we are fighting for the whole person, not just on the job site, but for the communities that they come home to. We believe that you should be able to have dignity on the job, be respected on the job, and then go home to a community that's thriving like a lot of our peers. And so all of those to me are labor issues. We fight for our workforce, and they don't just exist. They exist in churches, they exist in faith communities, they exist in food deserts, they exist in neighborhoods and a school district. So we're fighting for all of that. We bargain for the common good.
I like the fact that you bargain for the common good and that you fight for all because
Hmm.
your district is very diverse.
Yep.
And we need to always remember that you have different nationalities, you have different
Hmm.
ethnic groups in your district. And so they want to make sure that their voices are heard. We all want to make sure that the voices are heard. And one of the ways is going back to those doggone taxes.
Hmm.
I hear that all the time. Our taxes have gone up.
Yeah.
What can we do? If I appeal, I don't know how to appeal. Like I'm just stuck and now I feel like I'm going to lose my house.
Yeah.
What do you say to those individuals who just don't, number one, don't understand the process or the process is not working for them?
Yeah. I would say one, it's designed that way and it's too complicated and
Mm,
it should not be that way. Um, you know, I don't want to like point fingers at any specific entity or politician, but our government is doing the Spider-Man meme right now. Like they all pointing at each other saying, you the county board president, the assessor, the board of review, everybody's pointing at each other. And it's like, at what point do we all get together and figure this out? And also tell the truth about what's happening with the federal government. Illinois is a donor state. We're one out of 18 donor states that exist in the United States. We send $1.38 to DC. We get $1 back. Because we have this huge metropolis that is Chicago, we never gonna get 1 to 1, right? It's just probably not gonna happen. New York probably never get there either. But can we get to $1.12 to $1, right? Maybe $1.10. But we gotta fight to get that money back from the federal government so that they can go into these different agencies and provide relief so that we can get property tax relief. But that's something that is a huge issue also. And I'll go a step further. Our delegation needs to move differently, right? There's 17 congressional seats in the state of Illinois. 14 of them are Democrats. The entire delegation has to fight for the same thing, in order to be more effective. It can't just be this block and this 4 Congress people. And right, you look at what happened in Broadview at that detention center, all 14 of those congressional members should have been pushing in the same direction, but it wasn't all 14. So, that type of division has to come to an end.
And I think that's where your coalition building comes in, right? Comes into place, building those partnerships, understanding that we're stronger together than apart,
For
right?
sure.
Okay. Now here's another question. I know I'm hitting you with these questions, but I think that these questions are, again, instrumental in just getting to know who Anthony is. Anthony, you literally have done so much, but you've always been like the unsung hero, which is fine in the background because that's not you, right? It's not about lights and cameras and action and tailor suits. It's about you, the people.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and to a certain extent, though, right? Like, to be clear, my title at my day job is executive director. My title at the city as the commissioner is president. So I've been leading. I'm not the jump in front of the camera type of person, but I think the roles that I've had matches the work that I've been able to accomplish.
I think that's critical, right?
Yeah.
And most people desire to always feel like that their lived values and their passions match their everyday work. Because if not, you're absolutely miserable going to work and you hate it. But if it's something you love to do and you get paid for it, it's the best thing ever. You've already won the prize, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Just for that alone.
Agreed.
Okay. So you've turned pain into progress through organizing. What keeps you hopeful in this moment politically?
God. That's the only thing. My faith. Like I'm walking out on faith every single time. I'm taking the risk. I'm jumping. I don't even know where I'm taking the next step, and I don't know where it leads. Like, I'm gonna always walk by faith and not by sight. There's nothing about my story that says I should be where I am at today. Nothing, except for God. It's always but God. And so, like, I'll never, ever, ever lose my faith. And it makes me a natural risk taker. Not that I want to take a risk, but like, I know somebody, some divine, some great has my back. And I think for me, that's what keeps me hopeful. Like, this is temporary. Like, we already won. I read the Bible and firmly believe my job is to go make this a reality, to win the world for Christ, right? And I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not afraid to bless God in the same ways that He blessed me, right? And I'm not, and like, and in many ways, my life is that testimony. People from my hood see me, I'm like, man, Aunt, how you do that? And that's my chance, right? Right? I don't have to go out and minister in the streets or be in a pulpit, but when they ask those types of questions, let me tell you about my God. You got access to the same thing. You can tap into this too, right? This is the way to go. And so I don't shy away from my faith at all.
Amen.
Amen.
I love that. Because if anybody knows, I'm a believer. Yep. I will be like you. I will do Gucci Man in a minute. And I'll be about that life. But at the same time, first I drop down to my knees and always give thanks to God and always have God. He's already directed my path. And I'm just gonna walk it out on my assignment.
Yeah.
And that's what it sounds like that you're doing.
For sure. And
faith walk.
It's a different level of comfort when you believe that all things are working together
for your good.
For sure. And I've internalized that, and I believe it even in the hard moments.
Who gave you that? Who was the pillar? Was that your mother? Was that your father? Or grandma?
It's typical Black story. Praying grandma.
Grandma.
My family, I grew up in the church. My church is in Austin, Free Will. Shout out my home church, Free Will Missionary Baptist Church. I am now a Trinitarian, but that's the church that I grew up in. But it was definitely my grandmother. And then when I left and went away, and I was the first to go away to college, right? And being away and finding my faith on my own. When you look around and grandma ain't there to pray for you and your dad ain't there and you gotta, all right, I gotta figure this out myself now. And going through some rough patches, that's what really, helped me find my own faith, not just what my grandmother gave me.
I like that. What kind of leadership do you believe in this moment that America requires?
Bold, unapologetically bold, unapologetically for the people. Leadership that's not bought and sold. Leadership that don't feel like they're entitled to a seat because they waited in line for a long time. Leadership that is ethical. Leadership that is courageous. Leadership that tells the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Leadership that's not afraid to lose a seat. I tell this story a lot, but I asked when I led the superintendent search. CPD is the second largest police department in the country. When I led that search, I asked questions from the community, but I had one question for every single candidate. What are your non-negotiables? What are you willing to lose your job over? What are you willing to take that badge off your chest and give it back? Right? I live my life in that same way. There's some lines I'm not crossing.
What are those lines?
Man, cave into special interests, cave into the healthcare industry, betraying my people. I would never do that. I'll go live a happy life in the private sector. It's been all type of money offered to me in this race, and it's like I'm cool, I'm good, because I gotta look my dad in the eye, right, and let him know, pops, I did the best I could. I gotta look my God in the eye on Judgment Day. I have to look myself in the mirror, and I have to be able to sleep at night. And there's some things bigger and better than winning a seat. It's not about just winning a seat. It's about how you win. Did you keep your integrity? Did you keep your soul? And I absolutely refuse to let politics or anything else take that from me. I'll lose this race with dignity.
I like that. You'll lose this race
I'm not gonna lose.
if you lose
I'm
this
not
race.
gonna lose. But if I do,
Dignity
I'm
and
gonna keep.
integrity.
Yes,
I love that.
yes.
So we have about less than 10 minutes of the show. Can you? I told you it's gonna go quick. It's
It
quick,
did. It
right?
did go quick.
We're just warming up.
Yeah, okay.
So that's
Okay.
why I said you're gonna come
Yeah,
back
for sure.
because I already knew it.
I'm ready.
I'm just psychic. So listen, for like the last 10 minutes, give or take, I'm going to let you all know the phone number. Feel free to call in because I saw Anthony's phone ring. So they probably were trying to call in on his phone. So the number is 708-223-8953. This is a live show. You could call and ask Anthony questions. Again, the number is 708-223-8953. So if someone calls, we'll just stop our conversation,
Okay.
have them answer, ask you questions and you answer them, and then we'll go back to where we're at.
Cool.
Okay. All right. So, all right, now let's keep moving. If elected, how should constituents hold you accountable?
One, at the ballot box. That's the most important. But two, I want to hear from you, right? And I'm again, I'm going to be knocking on your door the same way I have a door knocking operation now. We're going to have that same operation. As president of the commission, we were offered, the ability to have our meetings at City Hall in the city of Chicago, and I refused. We have our meetings at community colleges, every one of them in the city of Chicago, because we got to come to you, right? And so I will be out front, coming to people, having not only town halls, virtual town halls, meeting people where they are, and that's the best way to hold any elected official accountable. Is not only with your vote, but with your voice.
Now, you referred to commissioner. For the people who don't know that,
Yeah.
can you please tell them?
Yeah. So after the assassination of Chairman Fred Hampton, there was this outcry in the city of Chicago for community control of the police. And it was led then by a guy named Bobby Rush. This is before he was Alderman Rush. This is before he was Congressman Rush. So for 50 years, there was a struggle for community control of the police. And we weren't able to get it because Chicago has such a strong mayor. In 2021, I helped to lead a coalition that finally passed it with a supermajority of the city council. And in 2022, early 2022, I was seated as the inaugural president. And I've held that position for 4 years. I stepped down like 4 months ago because I don't believe in holding power and hoarding power while you run for something else. But we oversee the police department. We write policy for the police department. We play a role in hiring and firing the police superintendent. We oversee two other agencies that are police related. We have some budgetary power. So we are the civilian oversight board of the Chicago Police Department.
Wow. I'm sure there are stories.
Oh, it's a lot.
You can share.
But I'll give you a couple examples of what my leadership looks like.
Mm-hmm.
In the city of Chicago right now, we ended a gang database that had 130,000 people on it. 90% of them were Black and brown men. 10 people over the age of 116, and the youngest person was 7 years old.
Wow.
And
seven?
So, 7. And it was only 3% accurate. They would use that to deny you employment. They shared it with immigration and customs enforcement.
Oh my.
It was very poorly kept together, and we ended that. And it hasn't had a negative impact on crime. Also, now police misconduct records are made public, but not only are they made public, but they're searchable by name. You can go to CPD's website and type in an officer's name and see what their history is, right? That's not something that level of transparency hasn't happened in the city of Chicago. So when you look at the things that we've been able to accomplish in just a short amount of time, we got one of the best police superintendents we've had right now. And it was a community-led process. There was no Mayor Johnson or Lightfoot who ran that search. It was myself and the board that I was a part of, that I am still a part of, that was able to make that happen. So it's been a it's been an interesting ride, but we've been able to do some things that are really beneficial. We got a long way to go. Anybody who knows anything about Chicago knows public safety is like an anchor issue. So we got a long way to go, but look at the gains we've made.
That's amazing. I had no idea.
Language justice, right? We didn't have enough translators in the Chicago Police Department. I met a group of mothers from Little Village, about 40 of them, that were like, our sons' murders were not solved, sons and daughters, because they weren't enough translators in the Chicago Police Department.
No.
They would literally interview you and say, "Oh, you don't speak English. Well, I need a couple days. We'll get somebody. We'll get a translator here."
And no one ever.
72 hours later, the case is dried up before when you finally got a translator. So doing things like that has made a tangible impact on people's everyday lives. One last thing I'll say about this that we have to do in the state of Illinois: we do not have a functioning witness protection program. And so when you think about why it's so easy for people to get away with crime and murders, violent murders in the city of Chicago specifically, but also in Illinois, it's because we don't really have a lot of protection we can give to somebody who wants to do the right thing and tell what happened. It's currently administered through the Attorney General's office, but it's a long process. So imagine you wanting to tell an officer, "Hey, I know who killed this person," but they can't just say to you, "Okay, we'll relocate you. We'll help you put yourself up somewhere where you can be safe. We'll protect you." Right? So you left to fend for yourself.
And that's never good. We already know what happens when, Okay, so now we're moving into our rapid round.
Rapid. Okay.
All right. So here we go.
So these yes or no's?
It could be, it could not be.
Okay.
Just kind of how quick you answer it.
Cool.
All right, let's go. One word that best describes the 7th district. Go.
Beautiful.
Okay, I like it. All right. A leader who inspires you and why?
Harold Washington. He was able to break the mold in a time where he faced immense opposition and still was able to get things done.
Yes, he did. And that was a beast.
Yeah.
Okay. What does winning for working families look like in 10 years?
It looks like looking back, saying that I'm retired because I believe in term limits. So 10 years I should be done. And saying that the federal minimum wage is above $25 an hour, that we have universal health care, that we passed the Green New Deal, that we have passed the PRO Act to ensure that people can collectively bargain. And yeah, I can go on, but
just the flash round. It's the flash round.
Right,
okay, you about to turn this to a whole nother segment.
All right.
Finish the sentence. Real leadership means
having integrity.
Good. Uncompromising integrity.
Uncompromising.
Okay. What do you want people to understand about Anthony Driver, the person, and not the candidate?
The person. Ooh, that's deep. The person and not the candidate. It's what you said earlier, that I believe that vulnerability is strength, and I'm not afraid to show the parts of myself that other people hide. That like my life story is on full display, not because I'm ashamed of it, but because I'm proud of it, and it makes me who I am. All of my struggles included. Proud of every single thing.
I love it. Yep. Anthony, thank you so much for being on the VANNguard Show.
This is a good conversation. This is the best conversation I had on the trail.
And I'm glad you took a moment to come on this show while you're on a campaign trail, because that is that's all I can say. While we're wrapping up, though, one last question.
Okay. So
what do you do to decompress? Because you mentioned the campaign trail. So what do you do to decompress?
Yeah, I have an amazing Black woman therapist who has taught me how to meditate. So I meditate, I play with my dog Marco, and I go sit in my grandma's house. I sit in my grandma's living room with them and watch judge shows. And while I watch judge shows.
What's your favorite judge show?
Ooh, I don't like none of them. I just she watches judge show. I like sitting with my grandma. I sit with my grandparents. I love my parents, my grandma, my granddad, really my heart. And they typically don't want to talk about nothing politics. They just want to know how I am. They want to know when I'm gonna have some grandkids. They want to know when I'm gonna be married. They don't want to talk politics.
Anthony, are you single?
I am single.
Hey, y'all. Y'all hear that? Anthony is single. He's on the market. So, this is a man of integrity, God-fearing man. Look, I feel like I'm like...
putting the resume out there.
I'm putting the resume out there. Go and support Anthony. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time here. And like I said, please come back and join us.
I will definitely be back.
All right. Listen, in closing, I want to... Let me mention really quick. Don't let that go. Okay. So this Wednesday, the Village of Westchester and myself are having a Black Excellence ceremony from 6 to 8 at the Village Hall. Please come out. We're going to be celebrating Black excellence in the village of Westchester. And if you know anything about that, that's powerful. And we'll be eating some soul food. So breaking bread, eating some soul food, and just celebrating each other and our, accomplishments. I hope to see you, the village of Westchester, 6 to 8 for the Black Excellence ceremony. Thank you so much for watching the Vanguard show, and we'll see you soon. Peace.
That was fun.